Thank you, Mr. Modane, for joining us for this brief interview concerning land issues in Kenya, and probably talking more about the policy, the new national land policy, and we'll want to engage you more on this.
Thank you very much. My name is Ibrahim Wadane. Professionally, I'm a licensed surveyor, but I've also done a number of other things in the country. I've been the chairman of the Institution of Surveyors of Kenya for quite a while. I've also been the chairman of the KEPSA Land Sector Board for quite a while. Currently, I am the chairman of the Land Development and Governance Institute. When we talk about land, I've been engaging in it as a professional practitioner and also as a leader. Yeah.
Just tell us a brief of the history of land in Kenya, basically touching the pre-colonial, during colonial period, and basically post-colonial.
I think what is important, Dennis, is to appreciate that when the colonialists came into this country in 1895, it's quite a while back, they found Kenyan communities living where they had always lived. But if you look at where we are today, realize they moved into the highlands. Some people at the coast, some in central Kenya. They created urban centers. They had their residential units in various parts of the country. So essentially, for them to be able to do these kind of things, they imposed a formal land regime on the then existing traditional practices of owning and managing land. So what you see is a scenario whereby they imposed new laws, which were informed by practices from their respective jurisdictions. They also created new governance institutions, completely away from the institutions that locals were used to that time. And for a period of time, they just continued enacting laws, which made it easy for them to manage land. And obviously, you appreciate that they were managing that with a bit of bias for their production purposes, so they may be able to get agricultural crops, raw materials for their industries out wherever they came from. So the management regime that came basically did not enhance the opportunities for the local indigenous people, but enhanced opportunity for the new colonial authorities. And you see, this continued for quite a long time, all the way to the 50s. Remember, when locals began to say enough is enough, they think a lot of their land has gone into the hands of foreigners, and they need to reclaim their land back, and they also need to reclaim their independence. That is what basically fueled the Mau Mau movement, where people felt they had rather go to the bush and push as hard as they could to be able to reclaim their land and their independence. But what you notice is that we got independence in 1963. And after we got independence, the new post-colonial leadership inherited the same laws, the same institutions, the same practices and procedures as had been practiced by the colonial authority. Now, that did not help this country very much, because remember, at independence we got a constitution which was very weak in the way it scoped the management, access and management of land rights in the country. There was a subtle thread of trying to preserve landed interests that had been allocated during the colonial era. For instance, you will have heard the famous adage that a title could only be defeated through a court process, irrespective of how it had been obtained. So it didn't matter whether the method of acquiring the land was legal or illegal, irregular or irregular, at the expense of public interest or not. No. As long as you had got your title, the fate was sealed for anyone else who would have a claim to that kind of title. And you can see that, of course, helped those who had got titles before independence a lot. And largely, you can see the foreign team that had got land in Kenya. Nonetheless, we don't want to argue with the history. That was the position then. But the other big gap was we didn't have a national land policy. So we managed land in an ad hoc manner, you know, and there will be quiet papers, sessional papers, administrative circulars that would be issued from time to time to shift the direction of land management from time to time, depending on the whims of the ruling government. So the gap and the challenge was that this first independent government did not address the problem, the land problem that had accumulated from the colonial state era.